We do many stories about police brutality and excessive force on the Young Turks, and recently there was another story involving an ASU English professor by the name of Ursula Orr, who was stopped by Arizona State University police, campus police, because she was walking in the middle of the street. Now, this story is very complicated because it's difficult to pinpoint the bad guy in it. But what she claims is that she was walking in the middle of the street to get around construction that was taking place. At that point, the cops stopped her because she was jaywalking, and they asked her to show her ID. After that happened, the situation escalated. Take a look.
Go. Put your hand behind your back.
Put your leg down.
Put your hand behind your back. Stop fighting me and put your hand behind your back.
Get up. Stop touching me.
Put your hand.
Stop.
Put your hand behind your back. Put your hand behind your back.
Stop. Stop. Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you?
Put your hand behind your back.
Now, she is facing charges including assaulting a police officer and resisting arrest. But the only point that I would like to make is that, look, it's really frustrating that people are getting stopped and getting asked for ID. The situation shouldn't have escalated to this point. But if I were in her situation, I would have handled it differently. Yes, I would be annoyed, but I would give the cops the ID. I would move on with my life, and hopefully you don't have to deal with it again. But there is evidence proving that there is institutional racism in the country. If you look at stop and frisk, for instance, the disproportionate amount of people that get stopped and frisked are minorities, Black and Hispanic individuals. So those are issues that we need to really hash out, especially when it comes to our police force. But again, she should have showed the ID. It didn't need to escalate to the point that it did. I want to know what you guys think, though. Erica, let me start with you. Make your point.
That video was so incredibly hard to watch for the very reason that you just listed, that we have a history in this country of institutional racism, of police brutality, of racial profiling. We don't know all of the facts of the case, but she actually said that the first thing out of the police officer's mouth before asking for ID was sarcastically, "Do you know the difference between a sidewalk and a street?" To which, according to her, she responded, "Why are you speaking to me in this way?" And then it escalated from there. I don't know the context in that situation, but I do know that when you have that type of history, and police officers do tend to be very aggressive, her reaction seems very natural and normal.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, obviously everything that she did in terms of like the physically like fighting herself to try to get away from the cop, you can't do that because however bad the situation is, it's not gonna, you're not gonna like wrestle with him for 30 seconds, then he'll be like, okay, I guess you've made a good point, you can go away. That's not going to happen. And in that case, I would simply put my hands behind my back and whatever. But I, first of all, wouldn't be in that position because for the most part, you're much less likely to just get randomly stopped if you're white in America than if you're Black. And the racist commenters who already are way ahead of me and rushed and typed mad comments are not going to admit that. But that's one of the privileges that you have, is that you're not going to be put in a terrible situation like she was. And even if you do put your hands behind your back, how many stories have we done on this network of people who were tased 100 times or shot and just killed, who were already restrained, already handcuffed? With the police, it feels like you're putting your life in their hands, and so sometimes you want to fight.
Yeah, I just feel like cops really need to pick their battles sometimes, right? So cops don't like to have their ego bruised. They don't like to have their authority questioned.
Yeah.
And so I know it's a really difficult thing to do. It doesn't just happen with cops. But when someone is trying to question your authority and you feel your ego is getting bruised, try to be the bigger person and say, hey, you know what? Is it really worth it to escalate this situation? All right, so here's the question. Have you ever been publicly humiliated? I want to start with you, John.
I have, but not by an authority figure. I did it to myself, and never in a big way like this in terms of like being slammed or something like that. But I did, back in high school, I was taking some sort of exam freshman year or something like that, and I was very into it, and I was very focused on the question, and I had a question about it, and so I raised my hand and I said, "Hey, Mom." And that's not what you want to yell in the middle of a high school classroom. It turns out that they will use that against you for 4 years, actually.
That's hilarious.
And that was humiliating. And in fact, I feel like I'm blushing right now.
You kind of are. It's amazing.
I immediately regretted the decision. I looked up. No.
Erica.
Yeah, I mean, I've had many examples that actually, again, this is why the story was so frustrating to me. Growing up with my father, who was like a 6'4" tall African-American male in a really nice car, we would be stopped all the time for absolutely no reason. My now husband, who was my boyfriend in high school, we were driving home, a cop pulled us over, a white male cop pulled us over, and rubbed my boyfriend's head. Like, these are the kind of things and experiences that come into play.
How did that happen?
What did he say?
He was talking to him. He asked him for his ID. He gave him his ID. He walked back, checked it, came back, and was like, "Okay, I'm going to let you go," and reached inside the car and patted his head.
Wow.
Right,
yeah.
right. So when you have that kind of history, that's what comes into play in those moments when you're stopped and you don't know why, and a police officer is speaking aggressively to you. That's what's in your mind.
I think a lot of people are really fed up, especially with all of the different stories that are coming out with excessive force being used by cops and everything. People are fed up and they feel the need to fight back. So I kind of understand, some of the attitudes that you see with these stories. I feel like I'm publicly humiliated on a daily basis. Like, let's keep it real. But one example that I would bring up was when I was in middle school. This was like terrible because I was this insecure little middle school student, right? And I was going to a rich middle school. It was in a rich area, but my family was poor at the time. So I wore hand-me-downs. I didn't have any friends. People would make fun of me, whatever. And my history teacher did this like raffle every week where she would pick a name out and then that person would get some sort of prize. Every week someone's name would get picked and everyone would like cheer for the student and everyone was excited for the person. The one week where they picked my name, no one said a word. Oh. And I was mortified. And that's like one of those things that stood with me for the rest of my life. But I will say this, it made me a stronger person. Like, I feel like people should be a little bullied when they're in high school and middle school because it teaches you some character and humility. So that's a good thing, I guess. Tell us what you think. Have you ever been publicly humiliated? Do you have a comment about this story? What are your thoughts? I know it's controversial. There's a lot of disagreement about what should have been done. Share your story, share your thoughts. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you soon.